This is what if, is what if we had no theme song prepared.
I didn't know what you were going to do, and
Me
it
neither.
was so much better than I ever imagined.
Nailed it. Welcome everyone to What If, and this is the first episode of Oh What a Marvel, Oh What If a Marvel, if you will excuse the pun, but it's right there in my face. And if you're not watching yet, it's because we didn't tweet the link, which I think Sean is doing right now.
It's okay. It's okay. It's
And I will retweet that. Welcome to Oh What a Marvel, What If. We got our first episode. It's the episode. Okay, so you see what they did with the clever episode title here, Sean, because it's What If Captain Carter was the first Avenger. So, you know, in a nutshell, there's your plot. So I'm intrigued to see what some of these other titles, because they could get pretty long based on what I've seen from like some of the images of future episodes. So that's going to be fun. Anyway, Sean, how are you? How are we
so
finding?
good. It won't let me copy and paste the link into my app, so I'm having to go onto my browser to tweet it. I'm great. I watched this episode, and oh boy, was it an episode of an animated television show for children. But I'd like to hear what you thought of the episode while I finish tweeting this.
Good idea. That's what we're here to do. Okay, so while you're doing that, I will bring up my notes, because you can't just raw dog this stuff. You gotta be
That's
prepared.
what I always do.
Right, so I'll preface this. Okay, I didn't watch any of the trailers for this.
Oh,
I'm looking at the I've just finished watching the episode for the second time. I'm looking at the like the image on the Disney Plus app for when you're on the when you click on the series. And to be honest, I'm kind of getting spoiled with all the stuff that I avoided in the fucking trailer right now. Like,
yeah.
I knew a couple of the ones we were getting. I knew we were going to get like a zombies one. I knew we was going to get the T'Challa Star-Lord episode, and I know we're getting like a Spider-Man Supreme episode. Those are the only ones. But now I'm seeing Ultron with Infinity Stones, and
so I got spoiled.
As Thanos.
I got spoiled by a Hyundai commercial.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I've not seen
I got spoiled. So don't look at it, because it spoils what the show's about. But I mean, it's kind of what I expected a little bit, although a little different than what I expected. But it shows a clip that is very clearly from probably one of the last couple episodes. And funnily enough, that commercial did a better job of getting me excited for the rest of this show than this episode did. And this episode kind of faked me out at the end a little bit. I was actually really excited about something that happened at the end, and then it turned out to be less exciting than I thought it was going to be.
Okay, I'm intrigued, because I thought the ending was one of the stronger points of the episode.
I thought it was still strong, but are we just going full spoilers? Are we just going to talk about it?
I mean, we can do it a little bit if you want to get into. We're there now anyway. We've built up to it. Don't blue ball me. Let's hear it.
So I built it up in my head when she's fighting the tentacle monster thing, and she's going through the portal. That I'm like, okay, so she's gonna go to like a different universe or something, and this is how we're gonna kick off What If. And then it turns out that she like somehow just ends up in the future, and I was like, oh, that also makes a lot more sense than what I thought was gonna happen. But I think I was hyping myself up that the seeds of what this show is about was gonna happen earlier than I think it will. Which at this point, after this episode, I think we're going to have like maybe 5 individual episodes that really have nothing to do with each other before we maybe start to tie stuff together then.
Yeah, I mean, the ending of this like leads me to believe that one of two things. Either they're going to tie these episodes into each other more than we thought, or that, because we've confirmed season 2, right? They confirmed that.
Yeah.
Not
9 episodes each.
We don't have the
No, I got Kevin Feige on the horn, you know, as I do. I talked to him about Spider-Man 3, you know, and the I also talked to him about that, and I talked to him about the script I sent him for my Spider-Man, Iceman, Johnny Storm movie. Still no
Oh yeah.
response on that. But he did say to me, Sean, I'm not going to tell anybody else this, but there's a second season of Marvel Studios What If, and I said
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell anyone else either.
Contrary to popular belief, we are not amazing friends with Kevin Feige, and
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Got to get Starfire in my. That's why he hasn't responded to my draft because I didn't have Starfire in it. You're right.
yeah.
The 2.0.
So
The 2.0.
so we're getting on the ending of this episode. It leads me to believe, I say, either they're going to tie these characters into each other in some way, you know, or in season 2 we're going to get like follow-on episodes from some of these episodes. I don't think season 2 will be all new what if scenarios. I'm hoping that season 2 contains an episode that, because I want to see what happens next with this version of Peggy Carter at the end of this episode. It's one of my favorite things and one of my least favorite things about this episode, because
So
that's going to be a cool episode if we get to see what the next step, because that's a whole world of possibilities. You know, is it just Peggy Carter
that's
in
the
just
whole thing,
literally
right?
with the rest of the Avengers? Are they all different Avengers? Are some of those other Avengers going to be
What's up with
focuses of
Iron
other
Man?
episodes down the line?
What's
Exactly.
up with Iron Man if we had Steve Rogers as like the Hydra Stomper or whatever in the 40s?
Right. So in that timeline, it's like if Howard Stark's developed the suit that early, which I kind of have a problem with,
It's a
but
little.
then
Well, they get the Tesseract. That's how
yeah,
they do it, right? They get their hands on the Tesseract.
yeah. But
I'll buy
everyone
it.
who gets the Tesseract in this episode seems to do a whole lot more with the Tesseract than they should be able to do with it, based on what we saw in the movie, the first Avenger. Like,
Well,
there's nothing.
the Hydra did get laser weapons from the. Like, they
Yeah,
had laser guns.
and now they've got a tentacle monster. So
The
what?
tentacle monster was kind of weird. I did not
I love
expect
it
that.
in a vacuum, but
Yeah.
you know, the idea that just this one change of Peggy being Cap somehow inadvertently butterfly effects to Hydra, knowing that they can tap into these space creatures, because Red Skull wasn't trying to
Yeah, I don't
do
know how
that.
that happened.
He didn't. I think he was definitely trying to tap into something in the movie, but
Yeah.
I don't think he really knew what he was trying to tap. He just knew that there was something
Yeah.
powerful going on to be done with it, i.e., energy weapons, and presumably just a bigger super energy weapon. So the fact that yeah, so he's tapping into that nonchalantly. We've got Howard Stark, who in the movie, he's getting blown up trying to use the Tesseract, and now he's just like
Mhm.
bish bash bosh, suit of
Yeah.
armor. Um, but having said that, I do want to see what that modern Avengers timeline would look like if Howard Stark developed the suit in World War II. Is it just like then the Stark Industries just builds up their fortune building Iron Man suits? Do they even need an Avengers at this point?
Maybe
It's
that's
just
the
like
Ultron timeline too.
it could all tie in some crazy ways, but that's a lot of speculation, and we're going to
So
rewind. Go on,
I,
finish
I,
the
I will
thought.
say, because you asked, they did confirm that Captain Carter is definitely going to be a character that they revisit at least once a season.
I would thought so, because there was some badass stuff going on,
So
along
they
with
already
some.
confirmed an episode around her in season 2.
Oh, so it's got to be then following on from that, right? So
I
whether or
presume
not
so.
it then mixes in some stuff from some of the other episodes, or if it's just like a standalone sequel to this episode, or they could all start, kind of melting pot situation with all these what ifs.
Mhm.
But coming back to the beginning, right? Here's my first major grievance, and I don't know if this is just me, and I want to get your thoughts on this.
Okay.
All I see is everyone raving about how amazing this animation is, and am I the only one who doesn't like it?
So sometimes it looks really good, and
Yeah,
sometimes it looks really bad. And for the most part, I'm just kind of like, this was a choice that they made. I'm pretty neutral on it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that looks really good. Like there's a shot at one point where the light looks particularly really good in the episode. And then there's some shots where I'm looking at like Bucky's face and I'm like, wow, Bucky as a whole, by the way, the worst part of the episode for me.
He's like a different character in some
It's a different
moments.
character. I saw somebody say online, and I agree wholeheartedly that this show, because of what they're doing with all the actors, is going to be the perfect explanation for like or perfect example for a like general audience on how acting and voice acting are two very different jobs and two very different skills.
Yeah, it's hard to tell which. Sometimes it's hard to tell which actors are reprising their voices. Some
Mhm.
it's just so glaringly obvious that it's different, and also with the animation, some of the likenesses, man, are so inconsistent.
Yeah.
Peggy looks great. She sounds great. What the fuck is that, Steve?
I
Like,
thought she sounded okay. I thought
yeah,
sometimes she was going a little too hard at it, but she's not a voice actress. Now,
yeah,
I thought Steve's performance was one of the best in the episode, along with Red Skull's, because they're both voice
really,
actors. Ross Marquand voiced Red Skull
yeah.
like he did in
Infinity War
Infinity
and
War. Yeah,
Endgame, right? I thought he was weaker in this than he was
I
in
agree.
those movies, but I think because he's more tethered to, because he's literally got. Well, I won't talk
Yeah.
about Hugo Weaving's face because that is I
Oh,
don't know
oh,
whose face
no,
that's
that's
supposed to
not
be.
huge. No,
He
I think
he he didn't sign off on that because he's got.
Well, he doesn't
It,
fucking want to do it again. He said
yeah,
multiple times that he doesn't fucking care. So I think they were just like, all right, Hugo Weaving is not the Red Skull
yeah.
anymore. We're
To the
just
point where I think that he wouldn't even sign off on them using his likeness
probably
for this because he's so different. The
completely
others look
different.
everyone else, it looks like they tried. Even Steve, which I think looks really bad. He looks like Peter Parker from the CGI Spider-Man series.
The MTV
Um,
one?
yeah, the Neil Patrick Harris one. And I love that series, by the way.
I
I think
love
that's
that
been
series
really
too.
underrated. And I
Me
think the
too.
animation is kind of similar. And also, I can't get it out of my head. Do you remember back like when the first Avengers movie was out? I don't know if it was just before or just after. They started doing these direct to DVD Heroes United
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
animated films, and like where it's just really like cell shady but like really over the top on the lighting, and like like
Hmm.
everyone just looks shiny,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we do kind of look shiny, but
Yeah.
we got
Yeah.
lights and laptop screens in our
I'm
faces,
I'm
you
I'm
know.
using like I'm using a little fucking portable lamp to light myself right now.
Yeah,
I'm pointing it at the wall and letting the light, because if I turn the light in the room on, there's gonna be a fucking blinding orb of
yeah, I saw
justice
that.
in the corner.
You
Yeah.
guys missed out on a great behind the scenes moment. That's fucking bright. And it was pretty bright.
It was.
You
It
know,
was.
he looked like he was in the Michael Bay movie The Island. Um, so that was great. So yeah, these inconsistencies with the cat, and I think the reason that they chose this animation style was because they wanted it to have that, you know, photo, not almost like photorealistic vibe to it. And if that's why they chose this animation style, they've missed the mark because, like I say,
Yeah.
nobody looks like anybody for the most part. And maybe it changes, maybe it works better in some of the other episodes, but
Maybe season two. I don't know if it's gonna change this season.
no. But I would have really liked, and it's early to say this, but I would have really liked if each episode had its own distinct animation
It's kind
style,
of like
you know?
what Star Wars is doing with their Visions short films,
Exactly like
the
that.
little shorts. Yeah.
And, maybe I'll feel differently as it progresses. Maybe it'll kind of, maybe if they want that unified look so that they can start mixing them up. But we're at a point now where we're getting ready for multiverse stuff. We can handle some different animation styles and still know that it's the same characters from the movies. Like we're brainy guys. Come on, like we know this stuff.
I
Um,
definitely think the animation style was a choice of them trying to make the show more palatable to the general audience that is really into the
exactly.
movies, and maybe would be like a cartoon. I'm not so sure that I'm so into that, but I think it was a really missed opportunity because it just kind of looks ugly. Like, again, I'm not as down on it as some people are online, but like I said at the earlier,
Is
right?
that a consensus? Because I
Sometimes
thought everyone was loving it. The anime,
I've
everyone said how
seen
beautiful and cool it looks, and I was like, is it just? I thought it was just me that hated it.
I've seen two
I don't
camps. I've seen
hate
people
it.
that are saying it's beautiful and cool, and I've seen people that are like, "What the fuck was their choice here?"
Yeah.
And I think I fall somewhere in between that. Where again, like I said, some shots I was like, "Man, that's cool." Like there's some like times where she's punching, and you can see like the wind. Like there's some cool anime
Yeah.
shit in here
And the
that looks good.
shadowing in some of the later scene where they're storming
Yeah.
the castle before they go to the tentacle monster. There's some really cool shadowing and the framing and the cinematography is pretty good. Just yeah, and going back to something you said about how they made this, they wanted it to be palatable for the
Mhm.
like the casual MCU viewers. So because they want the people to take this like seriously as they're
Because it's
taking the
canon.
movies, right? Because it is technically canon, but at the same time, they are trying to aim it at very young kids because there are multiple times in this episode people get shot.
Yeah.
Not only is there no blood, there's not even a bullet wound. It's like the bullets just bounced right off of Steve's chest at the beginning. Is it Steve that he does get shot at the
Yeah, he
beginning?
gets shot like twice in the
And they
yeah.
just disappear, and then it happens again later when one of the Hydra guys gets shot, and I'm just like, man, like, and it's just such a small thing, but when like say you, everyone who watched these movies, like people who were like kids when Iron Man came out, they're in their 20s now, you know, and I don't know how many kids are really going to be watching this.
Well, I'm genuinely not sure who this show is for
That's
because,
my point.
like you're saying, with this, the lack of like blood, and even the movies have blood in them. I mean,
Yeah,
fuck, we just watched John Walker take a dude's head off 3 months ago
yeah,
or whatever, 5 months ago. But
exactly.
like, the thing about this show is that it's also like if you don't know this at least this episode, if you don't know Captain America, the first Avenger, good fucking luck, because they did a 2-hour movie in 30 minutes and it just fucking moves from plot point to plot point. What I as a big fan of the MCU, I really kind of enjoyed it because what it felt like the show is here's the change. Now we're just going to jump to a bunch of events and show how those events were changed by the initial change, and not so
Yeah,
much a cohesive story, but more of just revisiting iconic moments and how those have now changed because of the initial change. But if you aren't like, I love Captain America: The First Avenger. I know that movie back and fucking forth. Like upside down, anything.
yeah.
Deaf, fucking no audio, no visual, just the audio. I know that movie. I love it. But it doesn't fucking explain anything as you're going. Like it really expects you to love the movie and to know the movie. But at the same time,
Mm.
like we're saying, it's kind of got this animation style that's gearing itself towards a more general audience that won't know the movie as well, and people that I don't really know who the show is for.
Yeah, it's just the thing. It's just trying to cast the widest net as possible. But sometimes I just really want them to know what the audience know what audience they want, and just really hone in on that.
I think
And
WandaVision knew what audience it wanted. Like that show was fucking
yeah,
weird and
One
was
Division was
unapologetic.
it was not scared to turn people off.
No.
And there was probably a lot of people that stopped watching that show after the first 2 episodes,
Yeah.
and they must have known that was going to happen. And and I think One Division still, despite the finale, kind of,
Mhm.
I don't know, I'd need to revisit that, but I still think it holds up. It's probably the best show that they've done,
Mhm.
and it's no surprise that it was the biggest risk taker of all
Yeah.
the shows. Um,
But
but
do you agree with what I'm saying about the episode moving very quickly and kind of being
oh
very
yeah,
disjointed?
I mean, I
Yeah.
love the movie as well, and I've seen it a
Yeah.
whole bunch. I haven't watched
Yeah.
it for a while, like
Mhm.
in the last couple of years. I don't think I've watched it, but I know
Mhm.
it well enough that I was able to fill in the blanks. But if, like you're saying, if you don't, then you're just along for this crazy ride of like, it's almost like there's not even like a story really.
No,
It's
not at
just
all.
you're just getting these snapshots that kind of spring off of like you say, the initial change. Although, like I said up top, with the technical monster at the end,
That
that's
yeah.
such a drastic contrivance
Yeah.
to say that. And there's a lot of that kind of, some of the stuff flows really well, in that regard of like, oh, that changed, so that changed. But then
You know,
it's like, go on.
I mean, the one change that I really fucking loved was Bucky not being on the train. He goes, "Oh man, I almost lost an arm."
I wanted to get to that line. I hated that line.
Really,
That
that's the only line in the whole episode from Bucky that I liked.
I groaned so loudly. Where
Yeah,
I was just like, oh,
it's dumb. I'll give you that. But like all of the rest of his lines was so fucking like I just I did
it's
nothing.
like did you see Hot Tub Time Machine?
No.
Oh, okay, so there's in Hot Tub Time Machine, there's a guy who they meet in the beginning of the movie, and he's missing an arm, right?
Uh-huh.
And then when they travel back in time, there's this running joke because the guy that they with one, he's got two arms. So through the whole movie, he keeps like having these accidents, and you're
It's
waiting for him to have to. You're waiting for the moment where it's like, is he going to lose the arm? And it's just a running joke.
Nick Fury in Captain Marvel.
Yes, exactly
You
that.
keep going, how's he gonna lose the eye? Yeah.
And that didn't work. I mean, that worked for me okay, but the payoff was really lame.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if the cat's an alien or not.
I don't
Um,
a Florian or whatever.
But talking about Nick Fury, I bounce off of that. There's some really cool stuff they do with just like the visual homages, some of the shots, and not just from the first Avenger movie, but from the Avengers and some other stuff as well. They like homage so many things. There's the moment where Steve walks in and Peggy's punching the punching bag.
Yes.
And it's that opening scene from the Avengers.
Yeah.
But you know, just moved over and swapped around. There's a few things like that. The shot with the Hugo Weaving's car when he pulls up, and you first see the car and the Hydra logo on the front. That looked really cool.
That movie. The zoom in on his face holding the Tesseract while the poor caretaker gets gunned down in the background.
Yeah, I need to watch that movie.
Did Hawkeye look fucking weird to you at the end? He looked old.
Yeah, it's like Steve Rogers' dad or something.
Yeah, I was like, is that supposed to be our Hawkeye? Because like he looks a lot older.
Yeah, I mean, we can forgive. I mean, maybe not the age so much. I mean, maybe because Peggy was.
Yeah, we don't know. I don't fucking know. Maybe
you never know. Maybe she does something that caused Hawkeye's parents to not meet for another couple of years, and they don't have him for another couple of years. What that is, I don't want to know, or maybe I do. You know, or maybe Hawkeye's original dad was one of the Hydra goons that she killed, so now he's got a different dad. Who knows? But there's a lot of internal leaps that you have to make, and a lot of these internal leaps are probably not leaps that a younger audience are going to be making. It could be throwing them off a little bit. But one thing's for sure, no matter what happens in this universe, these motherfuckers are going to dance, okay? They want to have that dance. And I liked it as much as it was almost could have been as lame as like the stuff with the Bucky arm. I really felt a little, quite heart touched by the fact that, it was just like destiny that they want to have this dance. And now I'm really invested to know if Steve Rogers is still alive in the present day, because he's a sickly dude, right? So I'm feeling like he probably doesn't make it to the same age that Peggy does.
Yeah.
And plus, if he's spending his life flying around in a suit with no training, and apparently he's a strategist and a really good pilot, and they even say in the episode he can't even drive a car, and because we breeze through the story so quickly, it's just like, where did he learn that? At what point did he just like, because Peggy's Cap, now I'm a pilot?
Now I'm Iron Man. It doesn't really
contrivances, and the fact that Howard Stark even had the thought to build a suit is a little bit of just like that's the thing that he thought to do with the Tesseract. I mean, I guess I could kind of buy it. If you're a weapons person, it seems like that would be, if you had an unlimited power source, that's probably high on the list of things you would do. It's a little stretch though. But
it's strange to me that all these things happen just because Peggy Carter becomes a super soldier. It doesn't. I don't really see the line there.
There's not a lot of lines, and if this was like a feature-length episode, you probably could have worked them in. I don't disbelieve that they could have happened that way. But
Yeah.
some of them just leave, some of the twists just leave much more to the imagination than others, and it's just a little bit of like mental gymnastics, trying to figure out where the lines are in some of this stuff. Another example I have of this is Howard Stark gives her the shield, the same shield. Like, why did he? Because Steve chose that shield.
Yeah.
So, like, Howard wanted to give him one of like the big square riot shield
Yeah,
thing.
and
So why did
Steve is
then?
like, what about that one?
And because he throws the
Yeah.
the car door, right? And
Yeah.
so I would have liked a little 20-second setup as to why, maybe we see her lift something up and use it as a shield, but we don't get a moment like that. Again, it feels really nitpicky here because
I
this
think it's just the
episode,
episode moves too quickly. And it
yeah,
expects you to just kind of accept things. And I think I can do that. Because kind of just in my head, I'm like, this is cool. Whatever. It's like 30-minute episodes. I dig
the
it.
action is
Whatever, you
so
know.
cool. Every action
It
moment
is.
in this is so great to watch.
I just hope that it starts to come together, even if it's just at the end of the episodes. Like, I want something to like reassure that there's a point.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the point of What If is kind of like there is no point, but the way that they're setting it up, not only from Loki, but from the end of this episode, is like they're setting up like they to be a point. Like,
You got Watcher involved. They're making a big deal saying it's canon. There's gonna be a point.
yeah,
Like I'm not expecting it to be a crazy massive like MCU significant like movie breaking point, but I
yeah.
expect these characters to meet each other.
Well, the way I've probably said this on air before on Loki, but the way that I envision it happening is that when we get to the next big crossover movie, and we get all these characters swooping in to help join up forces at the end,
Yeah.
they're gonna pepper that scene
Yeah.
with all these characters,
They should.
but and they should, and they probably will. But on this episode, I'm like, they could like some of these characters could all meet up and form a little team before that happens, and we could have like, alternate versions of the
Oh yeah.
Avengers all coming in. We're probably getting Dark Avengers as well. Obviously, that's in the same universe. So they're just, how do we top an ultimate Avengers crossover, but just have multiple versions of the Avengers from different universes all team up? I don't know. I don't know how many of these we're gonna likely to get live action, because some of them is just going to be,
Yeah. We're not gonna see
unfeasible.
Steve Rogers again.
We're not going to see like suit. I mean, we could have the suit, and we'll know that it's Steve Rogers in the
Yeah.
suit, but we're not
Yeah.
going to see Steve. We're not going to have like however many cool versions of Iron Man they set up. We're not going to get Robert Downey Jr. again, and
No.
obviously, rest in peace. We're not going to get T'Challa leading
No.
the Guardians coming in again. You could put the mask on. I don't see that
No.
happening.
Well, you know what they? You haven't seen the trailers. I'll save that one. We'll get to it eventually. There's a thing.
Just hit me with
You
it. 'Cause
sure?
it's probably on this thumbnail anyway that I'm looking at.
So Killmonger's in the show.
Yes, I knew that.
And we've been talking about how they could at some point bring Michael B. Jordan back because he's like everybody's favorite part of that movie.
Yeah.
There's a way to bring him back.
Yeah, I was never on the train of, let's have an alternate version of him be the new Black Panther. I don't want him revived. But depending on where his character ends up in the What If episode, if he's like a hero, and then they want to have Michael B. Jordan be part of the crew that show up in an Avengers movie down the line, people would probably lose their minds.
Yeah.
Because Michael B. Jordan's got that presence. You see.
Yeah, he's an incredible actor.
You see his face. He's got that serious look, mean business, that cool like Dragon Ball Z hairstyle with the armor. But maybe he's got like energy weapons and Iron Man tech and all this kind of stuff. Like, I'm all about it, but and what I'm sensing though is the more we're talking about this episode, the stuff that we're excited about is just not really to do with this episode.
Well, yeah, this episode, I think it's a very safe jumping off point, where to be like, here's a very minor change. Peggy Carter becomes Captain America or Captain Carter instead of Steve Rogers, right? I think with some of the changes that they're setting up for later on, they're much bigger changes that I think will hopefully be a lot more interesting to see play out. But I think this is a fine introduction to the series. Yeah. I definitely finished the episode and I didn't have the same level of excitement that I have for any of the other Disney Plus shows.
Yeah, I think the other shows all left on like a far better ending as far as leaving you excited, but then it's difficult to compare.
It's a different kind of show
because they're setting you up for like the cliffhanger for the next episode of that story, whereas this is just like, you know, we're not going to see this resolution probably this season.
I'm telling you, they should have ended the episode with her going through the portal and she walks into this place and maybe fucking like Doctor Strange, this weird Doctor Strange that we know is in the show, this evil, like kind of dark looking one. He's there and he's like, good, you're here or some shit, you know? Like I feel like they really, it was a perfect setup to do something like that, and instead it was just kind of more of what we know.
Yeah, I thought when I saw her go into the portal, I figured it was going to be like she went into like some hub, some like hall or like hub kind of place, and then as the episodes carried on, similar things were going to happen to the other characters, and then you kind of all know that they're kind of all maybe being gathered by some malevolent force, maybe like, you know, like an anti-watcher or some other, maybe it's like
an anti-watcher,
or
maybe,
you know,
some
maybe like
sort of, what's another word for a watcher, or like a monitor,
a voyeur,
maybe like a monitor, if you're monitored, like maybe an anti-monitor.
Isn't that a DC character?
It is, yeah.
But yeah, like maybe even like, you know, not the Grandmaster or the Collector or an alternate version of them. Beyonder, setting up like a version of like this could lead to a contest of champions, you know?
Yeah.
And they all have to fight each other in some kind of crazy thing. And the Watcher doesn't like that because he's like, you're just supposed to watch and just let it happen. Don't get involved. But now we've got multiverse, so the Watcher can't control if people like become Nexus events and go off. You know, he can't get involved. He just has to let it happen.
So you know what would have made this episode so much better is if we'd gotten more of the Watcher, because we kind of start off with him setting the stage for things, and I really liked when he was setting the stage. That would have helped the episode flow way better if, like, in between these little scenes we're getting, if
popping in and filling in more gaps,
just talking. Jeffrey Wright, I love his voice for the Watcher. Like I dug the bits that he was talking over, but like he was kind of used very sparingly.
Yeah, it just like some little bits of narration, like filling in the gaps. So, and because this happened, there was a tentacle monster, you know, just like something where it just gave you a little bit more context as opposed to like, because that, you know, that was out of left field, man. Is that Shuma Gorath? Is that what that is?
I saw people saying that. I think it's pretty funny. It felt like, because he's like, I'm gonna get Hydra's champion from the stars, and I was like, okay, what character is it gonna be? Like, are we gonna bring in some weird, cool character? And then it's like a fucking tentacle thing, and I'm not sure if that's supposed to be like. I saw people online that were like, is it supposed to be Hive from fucking Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? But that's not what he looked like. Hive was different.
And Hive
was like a person.
Yeah, Hive was pretty lame. I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actually did something fun with that. But anyway, the fun thing with Shuma Gorath, for people who might not know, is that he's a Nexus being. So there's not variants of Shuma Gorath. There's just one across the multiverse, and he can pop up in any of these stories, which then ties into what we're saying about all these other characters maybe getting plucked in by something like a Shuma Gorath. Although if every episode ends with tentacles, that's going to be really lame. But Peggy Carter with the sword, man.
Like, that was cool as fuck.
I thought the action with her with the shield was great. Like it was similar to like a Captain America fighting style, but it was a bit more brutal, very like direct and pragmatic. She's throwing motorbikes through
Yeah.
fucking windows and just punching a dude's
Yeah.
kneecap. Whereas Steve would have like just had a little bit of a
little bit of a tussle.
a little bit of a back and forth or whatever, and she was
Yeah.
like, no, kneecap. There's one great moment they reference in Captain America: First Avenger where the dude gets thrown through the propeller,
Yeah.
and this is again like to the no blood thing. This
Yeah.
dude just misses the fucking propeller.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he gets lucky. Him and Peggy Carter like get the best out of
Yeah.
this universe, right? Because he misses that propeller. But also it was glaring. As funny as it was, just the homage side of it, it was just glaring like, oh, okay, he can't go through the propeller because we're not showing gunshots. We're not doing that moment.
Yeah.
But this episode is the same age rating as that movie. I think. Obviously, age ratings are different for us than they are for you. But it's I'm looking at it now, and it's a 12 plus, which is our equivalent to PG-13, and so I'm assuming that Captain America: The First Avenger is also would be a 12 plus or a PG-13. So there's no reason you can't do that.
Let's see, what is it rated here? What if it's rated? It's rated TV 14, which is essentially that's essentially PG-13, yeah.
Yeah, but then I guess TV censorship rules are slightly different too.
TV censorship rules are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Very strict, very strict.
Because obviously those advertisers need to know that they're selling their product in a wholesome show as opposed
on the Disney streaming service, all those advertisers.
Well, you know what I mean. Like,
I know what you mean.
As a general rule for like American television,
Yes.
not for Disney Plus specifically, but you know, it's just weird. Like, I just feel like that was inconsistent, and it bugs me. Another inconsistent thing, Peggy says, I missed this whiskey. I can't drink anymore. But in the scene before, she was with Howard Stark drinking fucking whiskey. Come on, guys.
Come on.
That was
where's the continuity checker?
I said there was some nitpicky stuff. I really did. Another nitpick. Toby Jones looks like Brain from Pinky and the Brain. What's that about?
Is that a nitpick or is that a crossover?
I don't know. That's Warner Bros. I think Pinky and the Brain, right? They can't.
Disney buys everybody in the end.
Oh man, if I had the choice between Disney buying Justice League or Pinky and the Brain, I honestly don't know which one I want.
It's a tough choice, isn't it?
I mean,
I think I'd rather have
the Brain teaming up with Sebastian from Suicide Squad. Let's go,
dude. Fucking.
Oh, we'll talk about Suicide Squad off camera at some point. I'm assuming you've seen it.
Oh, I've seen it twice.
Yeah, good stuff. Really good stuff. Right, what else have we got? Okay, Howard. I nearly said Howard the Stark.
Howard the Stark, yes. Howard the Duck, Howard the Stark.
Peggy has a great line, and it's delivered so well. One of my favorite lines of the thing is, you know, we might need you to push a button. I don't know why that line really made me laugh, and I just really got the you know, the sass and the you know, from like that Peggy Carter has in live action, and it doesn't come through all the time, but when it does, it really hits. But then he comes on the mission in his fucking suit. Like, come on, Disney, you're not telling me that you're skimping on the character models, because that's a trope in animated shows, right? That characters always wear the same outfit because it's cheaper. You could have afforded to put him in some fucking combat boots. He's literally shiny, polished, I don't know what makes shoes, and the same suit. Like, come on.
I did like having Dominic Cooper back though. I love him as Howard Stark.
I wasn't even sure if it was. I didn't stop to check for the names in the credits. I started losing track of whose voice was whose. Like, I know obviously Peggy is Haley Atwell, and beyond that, I didn't know if anyone else was reprising their roles, because they all seem just so off character. And you saying it's because of the difference with the voice acting totally makes sense. I think that they're all like trying too hard to sound like their characters, and it's almost caricaturish.
I don't want to rail on the guy, right? Because I love him, but fucking Sebastian Stan in this episode
Rip his
was,
tongue out and his arm off. Come on.
dude, it was so bad. It was so bad. And I don't know if
Yeah,
it was the voice direction. Like, I feel like he could probably do it. I don't know if they were
probably.
like, just say your fucking line and get out. You cost too much money. But
That might have been the factor.
it felt like every line he read was his first take.
Yeah. And again, like I've invested so much of my money. You know, I basically paid for fucking the Avengers for the amount of times I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay. Right. They've made
Yeah.
enough money. If you're gonna do this where it's like branching
Tell
off
you
of
about Drax.
the MCU, you've got, you know, I think we've earned that as fans. Like, get the fucking actors, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And if you can't get the actors and you can't get the likenesses, then do a different story with the people that you can get. I mean, you know, and I don't 100% mean that, because I do want to see this stuff. But at the same time, I just can't help but feel like, come on, guys, we can see you cutting corners, you know, with the voices and the likenesses and all this stuff. And
So
I don't know, it did take me out a little bit. Go on.
when it comes to like Drax, because that was the big story, is that Drax is not voiced in the show by Dave Bautista. That's
Yeah.
something where I think Dave Bautista could fucking kill that. Like, that's already a weird enough character. But there's certain things where, like, I wish Sebastian Stan had not voiced the character in this episode. They really took away from the episode. I would have rather had a professional voice actor come in and give a performance that was not what we got in the episode.
Like, if it's like a like if Bucky was like the focus of the episode, then yeah, bring in Sebastian Stan, work with him, get some decent takes out of him. But if it's just like he's just in the background, I mean, he hasn't got that many lines, so it kind of just, you know, if you're gonna skip the corners that way, then do it in a way where, you know, it fits to the episode. Oh, somebody who's got 3 lines doesn't have to be the character. But if somebody's got a prominent role, get the actor. But then I was going to say, maybe it's the direction. I think you might be right with the direction. Maybe these directors were intimidated by the big star actors coming in that they're not used to working with. You know, it could be anyone.
And writing. Because holy crap, every line they gave to Sebastian Stan was not only not great to listen to, but just like, I think he's my friend too. What is it like? Oh, I did not. I enjoyed the episode, but I think that there's some pretty. I think that there are some pretty major issues.
Beautiful. Yeah. I did. I was slightly surprised when they blew up Steve, though. I was like, I mean, I should have seen it coming, but I figured they were just going to have it so, you know, he's in the suit, so he got off the thing. So when it blew him up, I was like, oh, fuck, are they actually just going to kill Steve? Like,
I thought he was going to be Winter Soldier for a second.
This is in my notes. I'll read the exact quote. Steve should have been Winter Soldiered.
I fucking really
that
wish.
Would have been cool, like skinny little, like they would have saved a hell of a lot of money on vibranium making that skinny little arm.
But like, he'd be a different kind of Winter Soldier. Like, I'm imagining like a more kind of creepy Winter Soldier than like the really tough and intimidating, the more kind of psychotic type of take on it. Which
I thought their version of like the Steve Winter Soldier was going to be like, because he's in the suit. I thought, they're going to like graft him into the suit and force him to be like this big, nasty cyborg Winter Soldier. And he's in the suit and he can see everything that, you know, is happening, but he can't control the suit. But they need, you know, it's like a RoboCop 2 thing where they need to have like a human in the suit for some reason to make, because maybe they can't reverse engineer it, even though they can everyone's reverse engineering the Tesseract, like no problem. But that's fine. And then they do the gag with the suit falling down, which was really unnecessary.
At first I thought it didn't work. I thought that I took it seriously. I was like, oh, the suit doesn't work. And then he stood up and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I
Okay.
kind of went the same. I was just like, oh, that was an unnecessary gag because it was, by that point we're like ramped up into the episode. We're kind of,
She's fighting like
you
a
know,
demon.
she's
Like,
fighting a, yeah, it's getting pretty serious and it's just gonna fall flat on his fucking face.
mm,
And speaking of the tentacle monster, there's a line that really bugs me. Okay, she says it comes out of the tentacles come out, they're there for like 5 seconds, and then Peggy says, at this rate, it's gonna devour the whole of Europe. And I was like, really? It's not
yeah.
it's not really grown since in the 5 seconds that we've seen it.
It's
And
not even out of the building yet.
how can we gauge like how can you gauge that it's not out of the building, really? Whole of Europe? She doesn't even know how big this thing is. So she's assuming that it's Europe sized. Like, I don't know, that bugged me a little bit. It's like you're really trying to overplay like how powerful this thing is without showing us all of the thing, which
It
leads me to
felt very
yeah,
Saturday morning cartoon.
yeah. But then some of it is like really like some of the action before that is like really, weighty and really cool.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it just flip flopped a little bit. And that's
It all
fine.
feels very confusing.
Yeah, tonally a bit confusing. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, none of it was too out of the tone of like the original movie,
No.
but it was just in the context of this episode itself. It kind of it didn't know which parts of the movie it wanted to kind of explore. Because there is some like dark stuff in that movie, and there is some goofy
Holy
stuff.
fuck yeah.
Like it's Indiana Jones is what it is. Um,
Mhm.
and I I felt that it felt like the movie. I mean, some of the stuff I was like, are they just painting this animation over the frames of the movie? Because that train scene, man, those shots are
Yeah.
like perfect. Like,
Exact. Yeah.
and again, I'm thinking, what on one hand, I'm thinking, oh man, that's so cool. It looks so much like the movie. And on the other hand, I'm thinking, did they just cut another corner and just paste over the fucking movie? Because, like a Scanner Darkly or something like that. Because, you know, I would believe that they would do that. I don't know. And Marvel's never had the greatest track record with animation. No, like as far as like
Yeah.
DC has always had the good animated stuff, and for this to be the first one, just a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah. It's
And
not. I'm hoping that the rest of the season is a little more interesting and just maybe slow down a little bit.
yeah, I mean, I've heard snippets of people who have seen episodes 2 and 3, and from what I understand, this episode follows the movie more closely, and the other episode, I've heard the T'Challa episode just goes like off on its own angle
I've heard
completely.
this is definitely the weakest episode that was shown
Yeah,
of the first three. So
yeah, get it
we'll
out of the
see.
way. But man, what would I do to see Peggy Carter, sword and shield, standing with the fucking Hulk, like,
I'd give a
and
lot.
Hawkeye, and all of this stuff. And speaking of recreating the shots, that end thing where we see the Tesseract and the beam fires across the room in the
Yeah.
bunker. That was, again, straight out of the Avengers. So I want to see that. I'm just more excited for the future of this episode than I am. And I don't know if all the other episodes are going to employ that same thing where I'm going to be more excited for just the content of the episode itself, or if they're also going to leave me wanting more of those characters, and if and when they're going to all mingle together, which I really hope that at this point that's going to be the Mephisto of the show, right? It's like, when are we getting the what if Avengers? You know,
Pretty
when,
much. When is it gonna like come together?
yeah. That's basically like Exiles, right, from the comics, which is a completely different thing, but it's the same concept of different variants of different X-Men characters all teaming
Yeah.
up. And I never knew that I needed that for the Avengers, but I'm down
I do.
for it. They could spin that off as its own show that could run alongside What if they wanted to, you
I'd
know.
fucking yeah.
But then the problem is every episode is going to be a different thing, and then we're going to be left wanting like 12 different fucking spin-off series more than we're actually wanting this series.
And you know, Dean, Disney's gonna fucking give it to you, and you're gonna like it.
I mean, maybe they've got this animation department up and running. Maybe they're just going to hit the ground and just go. And they've got a whole slate of this stuff alongside the live action stuff.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I don't know if it's too much. It's not too much for me because I'll watch it if they put it out. But if every character in this show gets a spin-off, I get the feeling that most people are going to be turned off by that.
Probably, yeah. But I think they could do like a Peggy Carter spinoff. I think that
we're going to be
that
saying
could
the
probably
same
happen.
thing next week and the week after that, and it's just going to
That's
be like a
true.
recency bias thing of like the newest character is the coolest character. I'm looking at this right now. I want that Gamora Thanos looking motherfucker.
Me too. I wonder what next week is.
As far as I'm aware, next week is the T'Challa.
Is it okay?
And
then I think episode 3 is a Loki episode.
I
think those were the 3 that were shown. Were the Captain Carter, the T'Challa as a Guardian, and the Loki on Earth episode.
Right. Because I know the like a lot of critics and stuff have been sent screeners that is. I don't know if it's the first 3 episodes or just 3 episodes.
I think it was the first 3.
In which case, the third, from what I understand, the third episode will not be a Loki episode.
Oh, okay. I know there is a Loki episode somewhere.
Yeah, I mean it could be, but you know, I heard a little bit of the premise of what episode 3 is about. I don't know if anyone wants me to talk about.
Yeah, what's it about?
So from what I understand, episode 3, in the premise is something along the lines of somebody's got hold of Nick Fury's list of who the Avengers are going to be, and they're going around taking them out one by one before they get to become the Avengers.
That sounds awesome.
It sounds amazing. I mean, that could be Loki. That'd be a pretty, because we see Loki at the end of Thor, the first Thor, in the credit scene, and he's like spying on Fury and Selvig.
Yeah. Maybe.
So maybe it's Loki getting, or a version of Loki getting the jump on the Avengers before it happens, which would be cool. Maybe that's like a reveal that I don't know if it's going to be like a mystery kind of thing of like who's doing that and why. I didn't hear that. All I heard was Avengers getting taken out one by one before the Avengers, which
I'm excited.
That's the coolest one of the premises that I've heard so far.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that's what we get.
I'm excited.
Any final thoughts, Sean?
Not really. I'm very tired.
Yeah. And just to be clear, this episode was what if What a Marvel did a what if show, which we did just do. Okay.
Okay. I think I understand.
It's the most complicated sounding one, but it's the simplest one. I've got some ideas for how I'm going to
excited.
How I'm going to kind of frame these episodes just for our own enjoyment, really. You know, it's not going to affect anyone. But Jay didn't want to be on this show, but maybe in a future episode, what if he did? I've got ideas.
What if Jay Wade was on What a Marvel? What if?
Yeah. Let's just say I've got the perfect hat. Okay.
All right.
I've got to grow the beard out for that one.
You do.
And on that note, this has been What If, or Was It? I've been Dean. You can get me on Twitter at DeanLewis2099. Sean, where can they find you?
At Sean_AFK on Twitter.
I put it in. Mine's over there as well. Over there.
Yeah, we're down
in the corner.
We're down. We're all down here. Tyler will be joining us probably next week.
Yeah, it's going to be great to have him on. I want to hear his thoughts on this episode as well.
Me too.
I'm excited, man. You know, like the episode or not, I still, you know, I'm going to come back. It doesn't matter. Feed me shit, Disney, and I will buy it.
Very true. On that note, I'm gonna give you the overlay. I'm gonna let you do your little exit song.
I'm ready. Go. Oh, this is what if. What if we did a show, which we just did on YouTube at the Merc with the Movie Blog channel? Go subscribe. Da-da-da.